You know, I've always believed that stories aren't just things we tell to pass the time. They're the threads that weave us into something more than just flesh and bone. They're the echoes of our wounds, the whispers of our triumphs, and sometimes the quiet confessions we make to the mirror when no one's watching. Oh, my name is Peter Dinklage, and if you're here, maybe you've seen me on a screen, striding through worlds of ice and fire, or lurking in the shadows of some forgotten indie film. But today, I want to take you back to a chapter of my life that isn't scripted, isn't polished for the cameras. It's raw, like a fresh scar that still aches when the weather turns cold. This is the story of the day my father stopped believing in me. Or at least, that's how it felt in the moment. But as with most stories worth telling, it's not just about the fall, it's about the climb that follows, the way pain can forge something unbreakable inside you. Let me set the scene for you. It was the early 80s, and I was a kid growing up in Mendham, New Jersey, a place that felt like it was plucked from a Norman Rockwell painting, all rolling hills and white picket fences, but with an undercurrent of that small-town scrutiny that can make you feel like you're under a microscope. Oh, my family wasn't rich. Dad worked as an insurance salesman, pounding the pavement day in and day out, trying to sell peace of mind to folks who were just as worried about the future as he was. Was an elementary school music teacher, filling our house with the sounds of piano scale rehearsals. And then there was me, the youngest of three boys, born with achondroplasia, which is a fancy way of saying I was always going to be shorter than the world expected. 4 feet, 5 inches of determination, wrapped in a body that society often treated like a punchline. From the start, I felt different, not just because of my height, but because of the way the world reacted to it. The kids at school would stare, whisper, sometimes outright mock me. "Hey, shorty," they'd say, or worse, things I won't repeat here because they've lost their power over me now. But back then, it stung like salt in an wound. I'd come home with bruises on my soul, trying to hide them behind a grin. My brothers, John and Jonathan, they were my shields in a way. Taller, stronger, always ready to step in. But even they couldn't protect me from the invisible barriers that dwarfism built around my dreams. Acting wasn't something I stumbled into. It was a calling that whispered to me from the shadows of my childhood. I'd watch old movies on our grainy TV set, Bogart in Casablanca, Breno in Streetcar, and I'd feel this pull, this magnetic force drawing me toward the stage. In high school, at Del Barton, an all-boys Catholic school, I found my refuge in the Drama Club. There, under the hot lights of the auditorium, I wasn't the kid with the condition. I was Puckin, a Midsummer Night's Dream, or some other character who could transcend the limits of his body. The applause, it was like oxygen to a drowning man. But outside those walls, the world was less forgiving. College applications looked. Practicality was the gospel in our house. Dad, with his steady job and his worries about bills, he preached it like a sermon. I remember one evening, clear as if it happened yesterday. It was fall, the leaves turning that fiery orange that makes New Jersey feel almost magical. I was 17, sitting at the kitchen table, my acceptance letter from Bennington College clutched in my hand like a talisman. Bennington! It was this liberal arts haven in Vermont known for its arts programs, its freedom to explore. I'd chosen it because it felt like a place where I could reinvent myself, where my height wouldn't define me, but my talent might. Mom was humming as she stirred something on the stove, spaghetti sauce, I think, with that rich tomato scent filling the air. Dad came in from work, tie loosened, shoulder slumped from another day of rejections and closed doors. "Peter," he said, spotting the letter, "what's this?" His voice had that mix of curiosity and caution, like he was bracing for impact. I slid it over, my heart pounding. "I got in, Dad! Bennington! Full ride for drama!" He picked it up, scanned it, and for a moment, his face lit up. "That's great, son! Really!" But then the light faded, replaced by that furrowed brow I knew too well, the one that said he was calculating risks, weighing odds. He set the letter down and rubbed his temples. "Drama, huh? You sure about this? It's a tough world out there, especially. He trailed off, but I knew what he meant, especially for someone like you. I nodded, trying to sound confident. Yeah, Dad, I am. It's what I love. He sighed long and heavy, like he was exhaling the weight of the world. Love doesn't pay the bills, Peter. Look at me. I got a steady job, and even that's a grind. You think Hollywood's gonna open its arms to, well, to you. Be realistic. Maybe think about something else. Teaching, like your mom, or sales. Something safe. Safe! I felt the room shrink, the walls closing in, all those years of feeling unseen at school, and now in my own home, from the man who taught me to ride a bike, to throw a ball, even if I could never quite reach the hoop. It wasn't that he didn't love me, I know he did. Fiercely, but in that moment his doubt felt like a betrayal, like he'd stopped seeing the fire in me and started seeing only the obstacles. That conversation lingered, festering like an untreated wound. The struggle deepened after that. I went to Bennington anyway, packing my bags with a mix of defiance and dread. College was a whirlwind. Classes on Shakespeare, improv workshops, late nights debating existentialism with classmates who saw me as an artist first, not a curiosity. But the doubts my father planted, they took root. Call home, excited about a role I'd landed in a student production, and he'd ask about my grades and other subjects, steering the talk toward backup plans. It wore on me, that constant undercurrent of disbelief. I'd lie awake in my dorm room, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he was right. Was I chasing a fool's dream? The world wasn't kind to people like me. Auditions where directors would glance at my headshot and politely say, "We'll call you," but never did. Rejections piled up like autumn leaves, each one whispering, "Give up, go home, be safe." There were days when the isolation was crushing. I'd walk the snowy paths of Vermont, my breath fogging the air, feeling like a stranger in my own skin. Friends would try to cheer me up, but they couldn't understand the depth of it. The way my father's words echoed in every mirror, every sidelong glance. I remember one winter break, coming home for Christmas. The house was decked in lights, the trees shimmering with ornaments we'd made as kids. But the warmth felt superficial. Dad and I avoided the topic at first, circling each other like boxers in a ring. Then, one night, after too much eggnog and suppressed tension, it boiled over. We were in the living room, fire crackling in the hearth. Mom had gone to bed, my brother's out with friends. It was just us. The TV muted on some holiday special. I don't even remember what sparked it. Maybe a commercial for a movie, something trivial. But suddenly I blurted out, "Dad, why can't you just believe in me?" He looked up, startled, his glass halfway to his lips. "What are you talking about, Peter? Of course I believe in you." "No," I said, my voice trembling. "You don't. Not really. Every time I talk about acting, you shut it down. You think I can't make it because of this?" I gestured to myself, the height that had always been the elephant in the room. He set his glass down, his face reddening. "That's not fair. I'm just trying to protect you. The world's cruel, son. I've seen it. People like us. We have to be smart, not dreamy. You think I wanted to sell insurance? No, but it puts food on the table. Dreams are for people who can afford them. People like us." I echoed, the words tasting bitter. "You mean short people? Disabled people? Is that what I am to you? A liability?" He flinched, but didn't back down. "I'm saying it's harder for you, and I don't want to see you hurt." Oh, crushed by rejection after rejection, give up on this fantasy and find something real. I stood up. Well, as much as I could in that moment, and stormed out, the door slamming behind me like a final punctuation. The cold night air hit me, but it was nothing compared to the chill in my chest. I walked for hours through the quiet streets, tears freezing on my cheeks. That was the breaking point, the day I felt like my father had stopped believing in me. Not just in my dreams, but in my ability to rise above the hand I'd been dealt. It was as if he'd looked at me and seen only limitations, not the boundless spirit I'd been nurturing in secret. But here's where the story turns, like a river bending toward the sea. In the depths of that pain, something sparked. Not anger, though there was plenty of that at first. No, it was a quiet resolve, an ember that refused to be extinguished. I returned to Bennington with a fire in my belly. I threw myself into my studies, into auditions, into writing my own scripts when no one else would cast me. I remembered the words of Nietzsche. Yeah, I was reading a lot of philosophy back then. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. My why became proving not just to my father, but to myself that I was more than my body, more than the doubts others projected onto me. Self-realization crept in slowly like dawn after a long night. I started seeing my height not as a curse, but as a unique lens through which to view the world. In acting classes, I draw on that vulnerability, channeling it into performances that left audiences breathless. One professor pulled me aside after a monologue from Richard III, Shakespeare's Hunchback King, and said, "Peter, you don't just play the role, you embody it. Use what makes you different. It's your superpower." Those words stuck. Burrowing deep, I began to reflect on my life like a poem, each stanza a lesson in resilience, like Rilke's letters to a young poet, urging us to live the questions, to embrace the solitude that forges true art. Transformation didn't happen overnight. It was a mosaic of small victories. After graduation, I moved to New York, crashing on friends' couches, waiting tables to pay the rent. The rejections continued. Agents who said, "You're talented, but we don't know what to do with you." But I persevered. I co-founded a theater company with friends, staging plays in dingy off-Broadway spaces. One night, after a performance of a play I'd written, a dark comedy about outsiders, I got my first real review. It wasn't glowing, but it saw me. Dinklage commands the stage with a presence that defies his stature. It read, "That was fuel." Years blurred into auditions, bit parts, indie films that barely paid. There were dark days, bills piling up, relationships straining under the weight of my obsession. I'd call home less often, the rift with Dad widening like a chasm. But in quiet moments, I'd think of him not with resentment, but with a budding understanding. He wasn't the villain. He was a father scared for his son, shaked by his own unfulfilled dreams. Insurance sales. How many policies had he sold while burying his own aspirations? It was a mirror, in a way, reflecting back my fears. The spark ignited fully with The Station Agent in 2003. That role, thin-barmed bride, a man retreating from the world into an abandoned train depot. It was me in so many ways, isolated, guarded, but yearning for connection. When the film premiered at Sundance, the applause was thunderous. Critics raved, audiences connected. Suddenly, doors creaked open, but more than the acclaim, it was the call from Dad after he saw it. His voice, gruff but laced with something new. "Pride! Peter," he said, "I was wrong. You did it." Oh, no apologies. Just those words, hanging in the air like a bridge rebuilt. That moment closed the circle, but the regal transformation was internal. I'd proven my worth not through anger, but through the quiet perseverance of acting became my alchemy, turning pain into gold. Game of Thrones came later. Tyrion Lannister, the imp with a wit sharper than Valyrian steel. Millions watched, but few knew the personal odyssey that led me. Each line I delivered carried echoes of that kitchen table conversation, that winter walk in the cold. As I look back now, from this vantage of years and scars, I see the poetry in it all. Life isn't a straight line. It's a labyrinth where the minotaur we fear most is often our own doubt. My father didn't stop believing in me. He was voicing the fears I needed to confront. And in facing them, I discovered a quiet fire, one that burns not with rage, but with the steady glow of self-belief. Forgiveness came easy once I understood that. It's the balm that heals old wounds. Anyone listening who feels unseen, unsupported, remember this: the day someone stops believing in you might just be the day you start believing in yourself. It's a spark in the darkness, a whisper that says, "Rise!" And when you do, you'll find that inner strength isn't loud. It's the silent resolve that carries you through storms. Believe in that fire, nurture it with perseverance, and let your art, whatever form it takes, be the testament to your worth. Because in the end, the only approval that truly matters is the one you give yourself. Thank you for listening. Keep believing.